When discussing antinatalism, the phrase life is a gift is often bandied around. Perhaps this is to suggest that antinatalists have some sort of warped view and aren't framing the creation of new lives in an appropriate way. Perhaps our lives are something that are gifted to us by our creators, and antinatalists are just not showing the requisite amount of gratitude. In this video, I want to put this idea to the test. What exactly constitutes a gift? What qualities does a gift have? Does life, or more specifically being created, warrant gift status? So I took the liberty of looking up the word gift in the Cambridge Dictionary and the Oxford English Dictionary, and these are the entries that they've got. The Cambridge Dictionary goes with a present or something that is given, and the Oxford English Dictionary, I'm not even going to try and read out that mess, but it's on the screen so that you can try and decipher it. Now, these definitions aren't actually particularly helpful for the purposes of what we're trying to do in this video. Each of these definitions boils down a gift as essentially something that you give, whether it be an item or an experience, to a recipient. And this ignores all of the nuances of gift giving that we're familiar with and expect in the real world. It also leaves the door open to some pretty unusual things as being considered gifts. For example, by this definition, giving someone a bag of peanuts who you know is an anaphylactic is a gift. Going to someone's home and just leaving a python there and not telling them about it is a gift by this definition. So perhaps under this definition, life could be considered a gift. But operating under this definition doesn't really allow for much examination, and as I said before, it doesn't capture the nuance and etiquette of gift giving. And it also doesn't get to the crux of the discussion that we're having here in the context of antinatalism. Does life warrant gift status and the accompanying gratitude? So when we use the term gift in day-to-day parlance, I think we generally assume it to have certain qualities and for certain etiquette to be followed. But what are these? Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through a list that I've come up with of things that I think are reasonable criteria for a gift to have to meet, or at least meet the majority of them. After I've done that, we'll go back through the list and we'll see how life stacks up against each of these criteria. So for something, an item or an experience to be considered a genuine gift, I think it has to meet these criteria, or at least most of them. The first one being that it has to be received without coercion and must be refusable. A recipient of a gift should not be coerced into accepting the gift, and they should have the option open to them to politely refuse it. Now, of course, there may be some social awkwardness around refusing a gift, and that social awkwardness could have a sort of coercive quality to it with regards to the recipient. But this isn't what I'm referring to when I'm using these terms. What I mean is that the recipient can ultimately decline the gift, and the gift giver has not explicitly or strongly implicitly stipulated that there will be significant repercussions for declining the gift. For example, if someone were to unsolicited gift their friend a large painting that they know ahead of time is neither to their taste, nor do they have the space to accommodate this picture in their house. But what they have also done is inform the recipient that if they were to refuse this painting, they would then charge them the significant cost of commissioning it. The second criteria is that nothing is expected in return. A gift should not be given as a means of exchange, but given to the recipient with no expectation of payment or of a gift in return. For example, if someone were to gift an employee a company car, but then expect them to work significantly longer hours as a result. Criteria number 3 is that no unreasonable conditions are attached to the gift. A gift should not come with unreasonable conditions attached to its use, especially if the recipient is unaware of these conditions before they accept the gift. For example, if someone were to gift a friend tickets to the Sydney Opera House, but to actually use those tickets, the recipient would have to pay for the flights, accommodation, food, and everything else, and the recipient had no prior plans to visit Australia. And then on the contrary, a minimal condition such as travelling to a local theatre to redeem your gifted tickets seems acceptable. Criteria number 4 is that the gift caters to some need or desire of the recipients. A gift should fulfill, whether partially or wholly or temporarily or permanently, some existing need or desire of the recipients, as opposed to not attending to any of their interests whatsoever. For example, if someone were to gift a friend that they know is celiac some food that has significant levels of gluten in, or if someone were to gift a friend a voucher with money on it but not give them the password to be able to use that voucher. Number 5 is that the gift should be returnable without significant cost. A gift should be returnable either to the gift giver or where the gift giver attained the gift from without incurring a significant cost, especially when there is a real possibility that the recipient won't want it. For example, if someone were to gift a friend a large piece of furniture that, if unwanted, would incur a significant cost for removal. Number 6, a gift should be given for the benefit of the recipient, not for the gift giver, even if there is a secondary benefit to the gift giver. For example, if someone were to gift their friend tickets to see a band at a concert that they really didn't want to go to, but the gift giver wanted to go to, to. And finally, number 7 is that the gift should not carry significant and involuntary harm. A gift should not carry the risk or guarantee of significant harm to the recipient, especially if they're unaware of the gift itself or of the harm that the gift may do to them. For example, if someone were to gift a friend a faulty microwave that could at some point burst into flames and burn their property down. So this list seems to give a decent overview in my eyes of the qualities that we would expect a genuine gift to have. Hopefully I haven't missed anything key out. Please let me know in the comments. So how does life stack up against these? Let's go through them one by one. So number 1 was being received without coercion and is refusable. Now, of course, we are all forced to start existing, whether you then go on to be glad to have been brought into existence or not glad to have been brought into existence, doesn't change the fact that there was that initial use of force. And of course, given we don't exist before we exist, we cannot choose to come into existence. It's a decision made by someone else and we have no say over it. So of course, coming into existence is 100% coerced and not refusable. In fact, the inability to get consent from someone to create them is one of the main reasons that many antinatalists are antinatalists. Number 2 was nothing is expected in return. Now, this is not always the case, but very often, whether made explicit or not, people who create someone do often expect something in return. Whether that be a meaningful relationship with them, pastoral or financial care in their old age, grandchildren, some parents even expect a child to work for them. Many parents expect something in return from their offspring. And it's not uncommon in some areas to hear a parent phrase it in the way of, I created you, I gave you life, and therefore you should be grateful and do X, Y, Z for me. Number 3 was that no unreasonable conditions are attached. Of course, bringing someone into existence isn't unconditional for the person who's being created. To have a bearable life, the person who is created can reasonably expect to have to work a job, pay taxes, put significant energy into the upkeep of both their mind and their body, and the shelter that they inhabit. There are a whole variety of conditions that someone must attend to that make life not unconditional. Whether someone believes these conditions to be reasonable or not is up to whether they think it is reasonable to impose all of these conditions on someone who simply didn't exist to want to come into existence in the first place. Number 4 was that the gift caters to some sort of need or desire of the recipient. Now, of course, no one exists to have a need or desire to come into existence, and so it would be ridiculous to claim that you're creating someone to cater for their needs and desires, when in fact bringing someone into existence is the very thing that creates their needs and desires that will then need to be catered to. So bringing someone into existence does the opposite of catering to their needs and desires. It creates them, often where there is no guarantee that they will then be fulfilled. Number 5 is that the gift should be returnable without incurring a significant cost. This one is likely self-explanatory for most people, as the only way to return the gift of life is to cease to exist. Suicide is, of course, a significant cost to both the person who has committed it, but also the people around them. Those who tell people who are not enjoying their lives to end them are not appreciating how difficult, distressing, and complicated it can be to do so. Not considering this a significant cost of return is, in my eyes, at the very least, disingenuous. Number 6 is that the gift should be given for the benefit of the recipient. Now, it's extremely common for those who are creating someone else to do it for their own sake, whether this be just so that they can socially conform, or because they want to experience what it's like to raise a child, or even that they want to use their child to gain a sense of meaning in their own lives. There are many reasons why someone may create another person. Very few of them are for the sake of the child. And even if someone has convinced themselves that they are doing it for the sake of the child, it's then another thing to work out whether it actually is a benefit to the child to come into existence. The 7th and final criteria is that the gift should not carry significant involuntary harm. Life, of course, contains significant involuntary harm. All of our lives contain some amount of suffering. Some of us endure extreme suffering, and all of us face death too. I think this is sufficient information to understand that life doesn't meet this last criteria. But if you'd like to understand this more, then you can delve into pessimist literature generally. But a starting place can be this article by David Benatar that I'm popping up on screen now that's called Kids Just Say No. So, of course, you can make your own judgment about this, but in my view, life does not meet these standards, or the ones that it does meet, it only meets in certain instances. I want to move on now to a subtle, more fundamental point, and that is that I think there is a subtle but important distinction between existence and what people, I think, are referring to when they say life in the phrase life is a gift. And I think this distinction has implications for whether we consider life a gift or not. It comes back to whether something caters is for the recipient's needs or desires, or if something is given for the benefit of the recipient. To understand this distinction, we can start by asking those who claim that life is a gift whether all lives could be considered a gift. Would, for example, the life of a child who dies of cancer be a gift? Or perhaps the life of a chicken on a factory farm? Or what about the unfortunate child who lives in the basement in Omelas? I think even those who employ the phrase life is a gift would be hard pressed to say that these lives are gifts. This then suggests to me that it isn't existence itself that is a gift. And a related point was made by Arthur Schopenhauer in his Studies in Pessimism, a series of essays. If life, the craving for which is the very essence of our being, were possessed of any positive intrinsic value, there would be no such thing as boredom at all. Mere existence would satisfy us in itself, and we should want for nothing. I believe that these two sentiments, that at least some lives are not gifts, and Schopenhauer's reflections on the value of existence, lend support to the idea that existence itself cannot be considered a gift. But that doesn't preclude the fact that certain lives, or perhaps even many lives, are of a quality that could be considered a gift. Now, to this, I actually somewhat agree, but not in the sense that I think those who are claiming that life is a gift mean. And obviously I can only speculate here, but I would think that the people who are using this phrase, when they use it, are either thinking of lives that go well, or lives that, despite not going well, contain a great deal of meaning. Of course, once we exist, we can benefit from an increase in our quality of life or our standard of living. A good life, as it were, is a benefit to us once we exist. Now, of course, people can cultivate a good life themselves or receive it as a beneficiary of more societal structures like tax-funded education. But if a good life is provided to us by someone who isn't fulfilling some sort of obligation they already have to us, which I would see a biological parent as doing, then I think that good life could be considered a gift. For example, this would be the case if someone were to adopt an orphan who already exists and is in need of a good life. The adopted parent gifts the orphan a good life by providing a loving and attentive environment. Now, is this example perfect? No. I don't think it would necessarily meet all the criteria that I've spoken about, but I think it meets a sufficient number to be considered a gift. It's in this sense that I agree. Some lives can be considered a gift, but only to those who already exist. I don't think we can say the same of bringing someone into existence, which I wouldn't consider a gift. One final thing I want to touch on is gratitude. Now, of course, I think it would be a stretch for antinatalists to say that they are glad to have come into existence. But we can, as antinatalists, like anyone can, be grateful for the lives that we do lead, if they are enjoyable to us. Now, when I say grateful, I don't mean to a specific person necessarily. I mean a general sense of gratitude for instance, the fact that we have access to clean water or ample food. We have shelter, modern medicine, and whatever else we have access to that the less fortunate don't. I don't see any conflict in being grateful in this sense, but rejecting the idea that life is a gift. Just because someone may reject the notion that life is a gift doesn't imply that they must never feel gratitude. Anyway, let me know if you think life is a gift. Did I overlook anything in this video? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.
Life is a wonderful gift.